It was 1907 when Walter and Esther Nichols donated land to the University of Michigan, and this started the Nichols Arboretum. Stretching over 123 acres of land, the Arb is a great place to connect with nature. In this video, we will cover some iconic places in the Arb, as well as some iconic people who regularly interact with the Arb.
My name's Jenna.
I'm Justice.
We normally come here, I would say, like 6 days a week during the summer when the weather's nice, but now that it hasn't been as nice, maybe like 1 or 2. It depends on the season. In the summer, we like to run in the Arb a lot. We get like lazier as the year goes on, so then in the winter we like walk a lot more. But I would say probably like our favorite activities are like walking in the fall and seeing all the trees.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything
when the
else?
flowers are up in here.
Oh yeah, we love to come
Nice
during
to
the
see
flowers.
that.
When we first moved here, we wanted to like come see the peonies, but we missed it by like a week. So now we always make sure to check the calendar.
Troll Hollow is a magical place in the Arb where people can come and build fairy and troll houses for the mystical beings that live inside the Arb.
And look! Daddy! Seashell. Look. Can you show it to Anna? Show it to Anna. There are designs on the bottom. Those are probably wood beetles. See, like a bunch of things in there. I don't think it's Daddy up here.
Yeah, my name is Joey Crampin, and I'm a graduate student here at the University of Michigan. Today I'm dropping off a bunch of books that I thrifted, so me and a couple friends have put together some little free libraries that are at the Arboretum, and so these libraries kind of act as a stepping stone, I guess, for people to look into books for free, but also just kind of get a nice surprise when they're going through the Arb as, you know, their normal day. But when I go through the Arb here today, I'm just dropping off books. I have like 100 with me at this point, so I'll just drop off at the library by the Peony Garden and then the library by the river too. A lot of people now know that they're here, but when they were first kind of getting installed, it was a big surprise to people, and they were just walking as they usually do in the Arb, and now they see it like a surprise library in the middle of the woods. So I kind of fill these up just so people can have that surprise, make their day kind of moment of a random book that they find in the middle of the woods.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hello, I am Helen Schmitter. I'm one of the Arb caretakers. I started this job in August, and basically what the caretakers do is we're called kind of the eyes and ears of the Arb. So we do a lot of the care and uptake, so taking out trash, clearing off snow, general maintenance of trails. If there's a fallen tree, if there's this and that, we help remind people of the rules and regulations so that everyone can have their most comfortable and safe experience, so nobody's biking around or running around with their dogs off leash. And then we do a lot of ecosystem management, so a lot of invasive species management and removal, a lot of planting plants, running volunteer work days, and then we help run some of the like public facing tours, programs, things like that. This is one of my favorite spots in the Arb. It's known as Heathdale, formerly known as the Appalachian Collection. It's kind of in this cool divot. The Arb has a ton of some of the roughest terrain and most like versatile terrain in Ann Arbor because of glacial movement, which leads to a bunch of little different microclimates, so a bunch of different little micro ecosystems. And because of the geology of this little area, it's a couple degrees warmer than the rest of the Arb. So we have a collection of really cool plants here, including rhododendrons. You can see the non-pine evergreens with kind of bigger leaves there and there are the rhododendrons. We have a really gorgeous witch hazel collection that just bloomed, so you can kind of see the remnants of little yellow flowers on here. So that was really gorgeous to have like late November bright yellow flowers with the sun filtering through. And then a lot of the Arb is this kind of, you can see some of the oak trees, some of the hickories, is this kind of rare ecosystem of slow growing trees called an oak hickory forest. And that kind of, I love how the oak hickory forest kind of gives way to, you get a collection of hemlocks kind of framing it, And then we have this really gorgeous rhododendron collection and a couple other appellations. So a lot of non-native species, which is not what we go for most of the Arb, but these are like introduced species that are beautiful and don't spread and wreak havoc on the ecosystem. So we just get to look at them and be like, that is sick. And the original landscape architect of the Arb had kind of the goal of creating what felt like a series of outdoor rooms. So you have like the valley, the Appalachian collection, the prairie, Schoolgirls Glen, all of these different regions that are kind of, if you look around the edge here at the top of the hills, you have these planted hemlocks, and I believe those are white pines over there, and a couple red pines and Scotch pines. So the idea is to kind of create this walled off feeling where you're in this room outdoors, created by all these conifers, and this is one of my favorites.
Is there a difference between like invasive species and just non-native plants?
Yes, absolutely. So invasive species are introduced species that have a lot of babies, that crowd out native species, and that have caused like ecosystem harm. So an example of that, we've been doing a lot of work in here, so there's probably fewer, but honeysuckle and buckthorn, those are two invasive shrubs where those were planted and they spread really intensively because the birds and squirrels that you hear behind us love to eat their berries and then poot them out everywhere. And then they grow quickly and shade out a lot of the native understory. So a lot of native like plant diversity is just completely like not sustained because they can't grow in the shade produced by honeysuckle and buckthorn. The interesting thing about the berries of those trees is like, a lot of times I've heard a lot of my professors compare the buckthorn to like a native nanny berry or something to a bird is the same difference for humans between a donut and a protein bar, where like you can eat one and you can be fine, but one of them is more nutritionally sound. It's just gonna make you healthier and like be stronger. And if you look at kind of the leaves of these plants, none of them have been chewed by insects or other herbivores, so they're not of any use to the ecosystem. They just kind of sit there and are like growing, but they don't interact with other species. They suppress the growth of other species, versus there's other plants like these rhododendrons. They're growing where we planted them and they're doing their thing, but they're not spreading a million seeds everywhere. They're not out competing native species. So out of every 100 plants that are introduced to an area, typically about 90 of them die because they're not suitable to the ecosystem. 10 of them will survive, and out of those 10, only one will become invasive. We've recently started a program to like increase visitor participation, where we have these waterproof journals in these waterproof boxes so that visitors can come in and like write notes, write their feelings, write about their connection with nature, because the goal of the Arb and the botanical gardens, they varied over the years, but right now one of the major goals is like increasing positive interactions with nature, and this is one way to do it. Okay, behind me is the original Nichols farmhouse. It's been through a few renovations and changes, but this is Nichols Arboretum. So the biggest chunk of land was donated to the university by somebody Nichols, last name Nichols, and this was the farmhouse. So in this region you'll have a lot of like, there's a couple really cool crabapple varieties because they had an apple orchard. There's some raspberry briars and stuff like that they sustained because the original land was, I believe, a wealthy chemist who owned like a huge chunk of property before this area was really developed into housing, and it was, you know, close to campus but not this close to campus. So Nichols Arboretum was kind of pieced together between the Nichols property and then a few other acquisitions, like over by the Peony Garden. That was its own land acquisition, and then as recently as a few years ago, there's the addition of the 4 acres of Anderson Glade. So there's about 123 acres in the Arb total. Originally, the Arb was kind of an offshoot, the Arb and Botanical Gardens were kind of an offshoot of the pharmacy school, because in the backyard of the pharmacy school, they had a greenhouse to grow different botanicals for uses in medicine, and then kind of outgrew the need for that space. So the original use for the Arb was kind of a growing area for the pharmacy school and to kind of show off different cool plants from around the world. So we have a lot of plants that are now problems for us, trying to maintain a natural area, that were introduced intentionally as kind of a tree museum, is the idea of an arboretum. So up here is the centennial shrub collection. So there's a lot of introduced ornamental shrubs that are up here. You can't really see them right now, they kind of look like sticks, but I promise they're pretty. There's a lot of lilac over here. Japanese tree lilac is I think the variety that we have. As you move into the main valley, there's a lot of cork tree, amber cork tree, and there's a beautiful Chinese fringe tree. And those are some of the original, collections that were brought and designed to make the Arb a beautiful space. And now that philosophy has kind of shifted into maintaining natural areas. We still have a maple collection, a Sapindaceae, so a maple family collection kind of over on that side of the Arb, closer to the field office and cottage. And then obviously we have the famous peony garden, which was donated by a member of the Upjohn family, who had one of the largest personal collections of peonies, and then donated it to the university because the Upjohn pharmaceutical company used peonies to develop some drug, I don't know exactly which one, and then it had accrued this massive collection of peonies, and then either when that became, no longer useful, they donated those beautiful ornamental peonies to the university. Welcome to the visitor center that I didn't know existed despite living in all of Ann Arbor until I worked here, living in Ann Arbor my whole life. Oh. So our visitor center is in the basement of the Reader House, the Reader Center, or the Burnham House. It is one of the oldest buildings in Ann Arbor, which was moved from the Carytown area to right here, as you can see the big production that took place in this picture. And there's a store, there's some restrooms, there's volunteer supplies, there's also a local preschool that comes in every day and hangs out in the Arb, so some of their stuff is here too.
The W.E. Upjohn Peony Garden at Nichols Arboretum is one of the world's premier collections. The garden holds nearly 800 peonies and over 10,000 flowers at peak bloom. The garden has been up and running for over a century, with 350 historic types of peonies. Within the garden, there are many signs detailing research about the peonies as well as facts about the species and their links to history. This is a great way to educate people. In June of 2025, protesters cut hundreds of flowers off of their bushes in an effort to raise awareness about the war in Palestine. The public consensus on the destruction was overwhelmingly negative. People didn't really see the correlation between flowers and genocide. The university condemned the destruction of property as wholly unacceptable. What's your name?
Kurt Sonnen.
And what's your affiliation with the Arb?
I'm a neighbor to the Arb, and I also do a lot of volunteering, removing invasive species from the Arb. So one of the ways I started working in the Arb in certain areas was I would walk the girls to school when they were in Angel Elementary School, and then I would walk back through the Arb, and I always got sidetracked working in a couple specific areas and removing all the invasives. So those have been my little pet project areas in the Arboretum. And so I have several areas in the Arb I specialize in, and also do stormwater control. So no matter where you live, you have water issues, and the whole point is trying to have the water directed in such a way that it doesn't cause more erosion problems. And so we do a lot of water bars in the Arb where the water gets deflected off the trail into some relatively benign area, can absorb it instead of washing out the trail. They have work days in the Arboretum twice a month now, but I often work with a couple guys in the Arb that are regular full-time employees in the Arboretum that I like working with, so I often work with them. I'm a big fan of actually removing the roots of honeysuckles, and what it turned out is the Arb had been continuing to treat these with herbicides to try to kill them, but it wasn't being 100% effective. So a lot of these plants were coming back up, and they had huge root systems, and they kept coming up every year, but they cut them down, but it wasn't killing them. So my solution was just to actually pull the roots out, and they came out pretty easy because it's mostly sand in that area. And so we did a whole hillside like that. But yeah, they called it the Sonnen technique, which I thought was pretty bloody funny.
Hi, Evelyn. This is Josh Kay. I started working with Shakespeare in the Arb as an extra. Our friend, family friend, knew the founding director of Shakespeare in the Arb, Kate Mendeloff, and connected us with her when she needed extras in Twelfth Night. And this is probably about, 13 years ago or something, maybe 14 years ago, maybe even more. So we connected that way, and then I was an extra again, along with my family in The Winter's Tale, and again, years and years ago. Those were the first plays I was ever in, really, and then ended up auditioning for Love's Labour's Lost about a decade ago for a speaking role, and got one, and have been working with them ever since. One thing that I've experienced is just making tons of friends in the cast, the production team. That's been amazing. And then just connecting with the people who come to see the show. A lot of them come to see it every year, sometimes multiple times in a year. And you connect with them as well. So it's been a really amazing thing to be part of, and it's taught me a lot about acting. I mean, the Arb to me means an expanse of nature in an urban space. It is the most amazing stage you could ever imagine. It is a crafty and sometimes difficult castmate because it's so active and is definitely part of what we do. It means friends to me, and beauty and community. So those are the things that the Arb means to me.